wish you could be as strong as a Navy SEAL, but are worried that you're not going to be able to do that just by eating plants? Hi, I'm Chana Mason, and in this video, we're going to be showing you how the Hearty Navy Bean might be the best way you could buff up like a Navy SEAL. I happen to love Navy beans because of their mild flavor. I've mentioned in other videos that some beans are really strong in flavor, like the black bean or the black-eyed pea. And if you really like those flavors, that's awesome, which I happen to. I pretty much love every single kind of bean, and I love those flavors, so I'm really drawn to them. But if you're new to beans, or maybe you just don't like them all that much, or maybe you're making a recipe where you don't want the flavor of the bean to be too strong, but you still want to get some of that creamy, rich texture and the nutritional properties of the bean in your recipe, I highly recommend the navy bean. So navy beans, sometimes called white beans, are just simple and white. They look similar to kidney beans, only they're just white. And their whiteness in a way is a sign for you of the simplicity of their flavor. And white beans are really fantastic for putting into soups and making them creamy and enriching and wholesome feeling because they're so packed with starch. And you might be thinking, wait, I heard beans have protein. What are you talking about starch? And wait a second, starch is like sugar. Isn't sugar bad for you? Aren't carbohydrates bad for you? Yeah! Okay, let's pause and reset. I want you to imagine that you'd never taken a health class in school and you'd never seen any advertisements, all of which, to be honest, are produced by people who have a financial incentive to sell you junk food, beef, or dairy, right? So let's just get rid of all of that and just start from scratch. I want you to think about who you are as a human being and be a little bit more childlike and open to just watching what your body does on a daily basis. So there are 3 things that your body does with food. The first thing it does with food is help you to build and repair cells. The second thing your body does with food is create lubricants like mucus or cholesterol and help to build the cell walls. And the third thing your body does with food is give you energy to move throughout the day. Now, when I ask people, if you think about these 3 different areas, what percentage of your calories need to go towards building and repair, go towards lubrication and mucus type stuff, and go towards giving you the fuel that you need to move through the day? Now, I don't like to compare a human being to a car because we're not a machine. We're much more complicated than that. But if you think about a machine, how often do you get an oil change and how much oil do you use versus how often do you refill on gasoline and how much gasoline do you use? That's kind of a good comparison to what's happening with a car and what happens with a person. And then that third category of building and repair, how often do you have to repair a part of a car? So in that same way, it's like we don't change the parts of a car very often at all. And oil changes also happen pretty rarely. The amount of oil we use in a car is also very little. But what happens a lot is we need a ton of gas in order to move through the highway of life, right? So a human being also does the same thing. Building and repair doesn't happen all that much. Even someone who's doing a ton of bodybuilding, they're doing building and repair, but compared to the amount of energy that they're burning, it's really not that much. The other thing that we do is lubricate and cholesterol and mucous membranes and all of that, and that's also a very small percentage of where our calories need to come from. The majority of our calories need to go towards fuel. You need to fuel your brain for all of the amazing thinking and growing and processing and moving and understanding and dreaming that you do. You need lots and lots of fuel. And fuel, in really simple terms, for a human being comes from sugar. I'm not talking about table sugar. I'm not talking about chocolate bars. I'm talking about the sugars and the carbohydrates that come in real food, fruits, vegetables, tubers like sweet potatoes and whole grains, and legumes. So legumes have this amazing ability to be a perfect combination of lots of starch, which is sugar, it's a complex sugar, and lots of protein. That starch and the fiber that's in beans is going to slow down the processing of the sugar so that you don't get this sugar spike that you get when you eat a candy bar. The other thing that it does is it feeds all of the yummy, delicious bacteria you have hanging out in your gut that keep you alive and well, prevent cancer and diabetes and heart disease, and also give you all this nutrients that you need in order for your brain to function and for your immune system to function. And they really protect you. And so that's all happening with the fiber. So the starch is giving you the sugar, the fuel that you need to move through the world. The fiber is taking care of those little gut bacteria, and the protein is helping you with building and repair. So it's an awesome food to eat a bean. And you need, remember when we were talking about these 3 different categories? You need 10% of your calories to come from protein, 10% to come from fat, and about 80% to come from carbohydrate foods. Now, if you're a bodybuilder, you could probably up that protein intake to maybe 15 or 20%. But if you're a normal person who's doing normal exercise throughout the day, don't push it. Upping your protein is going to increase your chances of getting heart disease, diabetes, and other inflammatory diseases, because protein can produce a lot of acid in the body that literally starts to break things down. Not what you want. What you want a lot of is carbohydrate. And it's yummy. There's a reason we're drawn towards eating sugar. It's delicious. It gives us the fuel we need to move throughout the day. So now I'm ready to give you a recipe for what you can do with those navy beans, with those white beans. These are really, really great in minestrone soup. And at the basis of any minestrone soup is tomatoes. So you can use fresh tomatoes, you can use diced tomatoes, you can use canned tomatoes. Doesn't matter which way you go. They all have unique pluses and minuses to them. You could even use a tomato paste. You're going to chop up onions and garlic and carrots and celery. Celery is important in a minestrone soup. Zucchini. And have your navy beans already soaked overnight. You should always do this with every legume. You soak the bean overnight, then you rinse it. You get rid of all of the soaking water. It's really great to feed your plants, but it can be pretty gas producing for you, so not something you want to be ingesting. And then you put that into the soup as well. If you want to add even more richness and texture, you can add some noodles, either whole grain rice noodles or wheat or spelt or einkorn or corn, whatever you want. And you just get that cooking on a low flame until all of the flavors come together and the vegetables are just the texture that you enjoy. Now, when everything is done cooking, what I recommend you do is add some fresh or dried oregano and parsley. And the reason I'm saying to add them at the end is because you want these greens to cook just a little bit, but not too much, so that they just get a little bit steamed so they're that really gorgeous bright green color. If you want to make it even more nutritious, I recommend you chop up some kale or Swiss chard or collard greens and add them also to the soup so you get your leafy greens, which are super duper packed with nutrition. In the meantime, while you're eating your delicious soups, I recommend that you take a moment to just feel how good it is to love your body, to nourish your body, and to be blessed with food in your life.
Want to find out what's blocking your vitality? Quickly take the quiz at hanamason.com/healthquiz.